Hello, I'm Corey Gilmore, and this is Adaptive Technology Today. Last week we talked about cutting the cord. That episode should be uploaded in no time, so watch out for it. This week, I'd like to talk about several things. We have a lot of tech conferences coming up. We have Google I/O coming up, and then we have the Worldwide Developers Conference for Apple. So it seems like a good time to talk about maybe some of the differences between the platforms and what each company is doing that relates to adaptive technology. Now, Google, I know I talk a lot about Apple, but Google is a company to watch. Not so much because of Android. If you like Android, that's fine, and it has its strengths. I play with Linux operating systems a lot, so it's okay. You know, I like it alright. But what I watch Google for is the self-driving cars. Because I know we've talked about this before. When I was a kid, I watched Knight Rider, and to me, it wasn't about David Hasselhoff or fighting crime. Or even the fact that the car was bulletproof and all these things. This car, KITT, K-I-T-T, that's Knight Industries 2000, for those who want to know how much of a geek I am. It's the Knight Industries 2000, and later the Knight Industries 3000 for the new Knight Rider. That their operator could get in the car and say, I want to go here. The car could understand them, say yes right away, Michael, and drive them to wherever they wanted to go. They didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to see the road. They didn't have to be able to handle the wheel or have good reaction time. The car knew what to do. Now, I wanted to think about that for a minute, because many people say it's a pipe dream. And I suppose to someone without a disability, it must seem like pure science fiction. But we know that Google has been working on self-driving cars for at least 5 years. So within the next 5 years, we should start seeing a self-driving car available. Now, why would I want that? Why would I trust a mindless vehicle to drive me places? Isn't that dangerous, right? Well, I suppose it is, to a degree. And let me explain what I mean. When you have a disability, it's not so much the disability that's a problem. I have cerebral palsy. I know what it is. I wake up and it's the same as it was yesterday. It'll be the same tomorrow, provided I wake up tomorrow. You know, every day is a gift, so I don't assume anything. But I know what cerebral palsy is. It is what it is. It doesn't change very much. And that's fine. The biggest problem, the biggest stuff that gives us difficulty around our disabilities is all the peripheral stuff. Like saying peripheral, for instance. And what I mean by that is, okay, you have a disability and you want to go somewhere, but you can't see as well as everybody else. So that means you can't drive. You have to be dependent on others. And most of these services, like around here it's called Caravan, most of the senior services that provide rides and things require 24 hours notice. They like more if they can get it, and that's because they have a lot of people to pick up and drop off and pick up again. It's not as easy as you think. So, the idea of getting some kind of vehicle that I could get into, push a button and say, I want to go here, is absolutely amazing. Now that's $5 to 15 years away to even begin to see that. They're starting to test it in California. And for the most part, the vehicles are accident free. They've been in a lot of fender benders, mostly due to other people on the road. It has nothing to do with the car itself. In fact, I will submit to you, and nobody will believe me, but I will submit to you that if we let cars drive by themselves, there will eventually be fewer accidents than ever before. Now why? I think we've talked about this before. And we said that when you're in the car, what are you doing? You get in the car and you buckle your seatbelt and you think, I have to have my lunch and I gotta have my papers for the office and the kids gotta be buckled in. So you buckle the kids in. By the way, you better buckle your kids in. That's safety first. Right? So you buckle the kids in. And they're going, are we there yet? And you're going, please don't fight with each other. Stop that. Don't poke your brother. No. And before you know it, you're busy yelling at the kids and you have to put on the brakes. And you have to put on the brakes because they distracted you and you didn't stop in time. And that kind of stuff happens every day. So self-driving cars are something to see. And therefore so is Android. So I said that we were going to talk about the conferences. We're going to hear more about self-driving cars at this Google I.O. conference because Google has a fleet of self-driving cars that are sort of bubble-shaped, and they've gotten permission to test them on the road this summer in California. So we're going to hear more about that, and I'm very excited. right? Because the more I can do independently, the better. Now, do I think I'm going to be doing this anytime soon? No, like I said, it's going to take 5 to 15 years to even begin to see a production model that legislatures will allow to drive on its own. It's going to take them a while to make laws that govern these things. And by the way, we can't make a law for something that's not an actual product yet. So don't worry about it now. But these cars are Android powered. So we're going to hear more about the new version of Android. That's Android M. And I don't know what'll be in it. There's some things I'd like to see. One of the things I'd like to see is for them to stop so much forking. Okay? Android is free, so all of the manufacturers who use it can do whatever they want. And that makes getting the latest version hard. So I'd like to see them do something about this. And then maybe if you could give me the latest version of Android, I'd use it. You know, I don't have anything against it intellectually. I understand it's a good product. My problem is I can't keep it up to date. Because everybody's Android is different. And that's why I use iOS. But that doesn't mean iOS is perfect either. So what could Apple do to make iOS better? Because they've got a big conference coming up too. Well, Apple needs to get off its butt and release HomeKit. HomeKit is for home automation, and so the idea is you should be able to pick up your phone and say, turn on my light.
I don't see anything connected, but if you set something up, together we could roll. You're home.
Okay, and in theory, if I had HomeKit devices set up, Siri would control them automatically. Now, this is going to be dead simple. It's going to be dead simple to set up, because otherwise people won't do it. If it's complicated and requires wires and protocols and all these things, forget about it. My parents aren't going to do it, and neither are yours. So it had better be simple, and it had better arrive on time and at a reasonable cost. And by reasonable, each one of those switches for lights and things needs to cost between $35 and $55 a piece. No more than that. Okay, I'm not made of money, and the people who need these things are not made of money either. When the self-driving car comes out, it had better be affordable. It better not require gas. It better not require, I think right now the price of a car is ridiculous. $25,000 just as a down payment. You know, I can't afford that. Neither can anybody else with a disability. So, get that stuff taken care of. You know, make the technology affordable, and you'll sell more and more of it to people with disabilities. Because if it's too expensive, Medicaid won't cover it, and then we won't be able to have it. And so, yeah, Apple needs to release HomeKit, and it needs to be affordable. Google needs to release their car when they're ready, and it needs to be affordable. And we're going to hear about both of these things at both of these conferences. Water. You know, the other thing Apple needs to do, and I'll be honest about this, is they need to work toward a single operating system. Now, I know there are a lot of people that say, I don't want iOS on my Mac. Fair enough. But you know what this device is? Yes, I know it's an iPhone. That's not what it means. In 1987, there was a show that hit the airwaves. And it was called Star Trek: The Next Generation. And it was set 100 years after the original Star Trek. And they interfaced with the computer with devices like this that they call pads. Pads were a personal access display device. Okay? So this is not just a phone, it's a pad. My iPad is not a pad, not an iPad, it's a pad. It is Star Trek: The Next Generation technology incarnate. Okay? We need to get to a point where the computers that we use sit in a corner, and these tablets just connect to the computer and can give you all the information you need. So you can say, computer, I need this piece of information. How old are you?
I'm old enough to be your assistant.
Okay? That's the promise of Siri, is that you can ask it kind of whatever you need. The trouble is, Siri can't search your desktop, and your desktop has no idea what's on your iPad. We need to work on that. We need to have one operating system with maybe 2 separate components. The computer sits in the corner, and these devices are touchable, and you can get whatever information you want off your computer in the corner. Right? So the way you interact with your computer is you're not using your desktop, because who who does that? I mean, I need to be able to talk to these devices and say, I want this piece of paper and I want to add this to it. This is the much better user interface. But my desktop computer has way more power than my iPad, which is okay. So use that as like the server, right? Use my desktop computer kind of as a server for information fed through this, or fed through my iPad. Be aware of the files that are on my desktop. Serve them up to me when I want them. You know, don't tell me I can't get to my desktop when I want to. And the same thing is true for Google. You know, Google Chrome is nice. Okay? But it's a web browser. The whole operating system is a web browser. And I want to be able to use my tablet or my phone to get whatever files I want off of my computer. These are just things to think about, because these desktop computers are not going to be around forever. At least not the way we have them now. Anyway, these are some things to think about, and we will talk about what is announced at Google I/O next week. And the week after, a couple days later, we'll talk about iOS 9, because we know that's coming. Until then, you know, think about what you'd like to see Apple and Google change. Maybe they could learn to play nice with each other. Maybe Google could support Windows Phone. There's a novel idea. I don't know, but these are just some thoughts I had. Until next week, I'd like to thank Leo Laporte and the Twit team for their inspiration, and say good night, Leo, wherever you are.